Hey everybody, Zorua here, and welcome to our top 10 Pokemon Ghost types. And yeah, I kind of started off laughing because I just did like probably 3 or 4 takes with trying not to laugh, but you know what? Let's just get right down to it because I am very excited to reveal the top 10 we have today. This will be our first top 10 in the Pokemon Center, and it won't be our last, but I want to kind of mix things up when it comes to top 5, top 10, and all that goodness. But I love ghost types, so I decided to go with top 10, and today we're going to start with number 10, which is the Mischief Pokemon Hoopa. Hoopa is by far one of the few Pokemon I looked at, and at first, I really didn't like it that much, I'm not going to lie. I watched the movies and everything, and I was kind of sitting there looking at it. I'm just like, it's not a bad Pokemon, but wasn't exactly great. And then I kind of looked at it more and more, and I was just like, huh, I'm actually kind of liking this Pokemon. It's nice, it's not bad, it's kind of powerful, has a different form, which is even more powerful, and it's overall a jokester, which I kind of like. In the movie, it was nothing but a jokester up until the end, of course, but anyways, let's go and get right down into the actual, I guess, entry. I was going to say lore of it, but the entry. This troublemaker sends anything and everything to faraway places using its loop, which it can warp space. This thing can make a legendary if it wanted to. That's wild when it comes to Pokemon. Yes, I think it's, well, I don't even think. It is a legendary itself, but just imagine that. You run into a Hoopa, and it just felt like making Palkia show up right in front of you. How would you feel? But overall, Hoopa is definitely an amazing ghost type. I'll always love it. But let's get down to number 9. Number 9, Sableye. Sableye, as people probably would have thought, I would have probably put it as a dark type. But no, I like it more for the ghost part of it. It's not a bad Pokemon. It was definitely powerful back in 3rd gen and everything. And it's one of those things where it's just overall another prankster. I love like mischievous prankster like Pokemon because they're the funniest in my opinion. I wouldn't say the best in every scenario, but they're the funniest to me. In Sableye, I mean, the GIF alone I had the GIF alone shows how much it can be a jokester. I just love it. The Darkness Pokemon. This Pokemon is feared. When its gemstone eye begins to glow with a sinister shine, it's believed that Sableye will steal the soul of, well, will steal people's spirits away. Think about that for a minute. Sableye. Something that looks like a jokester will just simply look at you and your spirit's gone. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just gone. You're just a little hollow shell of a person now because he just looked at you once and you're gone. Like, ghost types in general, you would think they could do stuff like that, which I love about them. They have either a jokey kind of feel to them or they just flat out are, I wouldn't say evil, but they're not to be messed with. And that's what I love about ghost type. On to number 8. The Marinette Pokemon Bayonet. I love the mega of it. I'm not even going to lie. At first, in 3rd gen, I wasn't exactly fond of it. But when it came around to 6th gen and all that and it had this mega just show up, I'm just like, oh my god, this thing looks amazing. It hits hard. It's not to be messed with. The design of it is amazing. And its entry isn't exactly something you would think of as a ghost, I guess, but if you really think about it, that's kind of interesting how they made it. A doll that became a Pokemon over its grudge from being junked. It seeks the child that disowned it. That's kind of wild. So it's one of those things where if anyone knows about the movie Chucky or anything, it's kind of, I wouldn't say exactly like that, but it's creepy knowing that it kind of has that aspect to it where it was just like, are you going to throw me away? You know what? I got something for you. I'm going to come back as a Pokemon. Not only could I be potentially captured by a trainer, but no, I'm looking for you. I'm not looking for anyone else. I'm looking for that specific child that threw me away in the trash and was like, nah, you're not good anymore. I got a new toy. On to number 7, the Requiem Pokemon Duskull. Now, people probably would say, but Dusclops, Dusknoir is so much better. For me, it's not about the stats and how it's used. It's just the Pokemon overall. Now, stats and everything can become a factor of why it's his favorite type or something like that, but it's not always the reason. For me, I just like Duskull because it's a goofball, it seems, to me at least. And I always like the name Duskull Kid because it reminds me of Kid from Death the Kid from, what do you call it? What's the anime? Soul Eater, there we go. Took me a minute. But yeah, every time I look at it, that's the first person I think of. So I think that's kind of hilarious. If it finds bad children who wouldn't listen to their parents, it will spirit them away, or so it's said. Oh, I was about to say, or so it's said. That's another thing about Duskull that I find kind of intriguing. It doesn't put up with kids that are annoying, basically. So you have that one child that's just kind of like meh, be like, oh, Duskull can do this and that, and then you just make your own Duskull show up, and they just get scared out of their mind. That would just be something I would probably do if I was kind of in that little scenario. Plus, I would always have a Duskull around me. Just looking at it makes me happy. On to number 6, which a lot of people probably would say is a favorite of theirs. Probably would be their number 1. I know someone that would probably say Mimikyu is their number 1. But the disguised Pokemon Mimikyu is not only just adorable with how it looks, but it also has this thing to where it is to be feared no matter what. If its neck is broken or its rag torn during an attack, it works through the night to patch it. This thing is meant to hide itself. It's not meant to show itself because if I remember correctly, it can kill if it's seen. So it kind of has this Shedinja kind of thing to where if you look at its back, it'll take your soul. No, if you look at the real Mimikyu, it kills you instantly. And I think they did an example of that with Meowth, I think. I don't remember it killing him, but I remember they showed an example of how terrifying it could be. So be careful what you do with Mimikyu. On to number 5. Another jokester Pokemon that I'll always love. Even though, for some reason, people don't always like putting up with it, but Rotom is always going to be something nice. It's a plasma Pokemon that can always be around when you don't need it, but can be helpful when it is around. Its body is composed of plasma. It is known to infiltrate electronic devices and wreak havoc. This thing is meant to be a jokester. And not only that, almost every ghost type that I know of was meant to be a jokester in some kind of way. I think only some serious Pokemon like Trevenant, and some other Pokemon like that were just kind of meant to be feared. And then there are those where you look at them and you just see a jokester before you see something that's potentially evil or scary. But yeah, Rotom, I would never see him as a threat. I would just see him as this Pokemon that is meant to be loved or just to be understood rather than misunderstood because it wreaks havoc, and it doesn't always mean to do that, I guess, because it can be helpful. So it's just one of those things. I love ghost types for that reason. They're typically misunderstood, and I always love that about them. Now on to number 4, which is kind of surprising to me because I didn't think I liked it that much at first when I saw it. But FROSLASS is rather interesting Pokemon. I like ice types quite a bit. And then seeing something like FROSLASS come from Snorunt, I was just like, oh my god, another possibility with Snorunt. And FROSLASS isn't exactly, I would say, the best Pokemon of choice when it comes to battling and everything, but it's definitely a nice Pokemon to have. And it's just one of those things where if you think about its entry, when it finds humans or Pokemon it likes, it freezes them and takes them to its chilly den, where they become decorations. This thing is basically like, what do you call it? I wouldn't say a hunter, but they like to decorate their little home with things that they see potentially filling that void. Like, if you saw like a Bidoof or something, it was like, that would look nice on my chair or something, it would just freeze it. You're coming with me. That's what I see with FROSLASS. It's kind of one of those designers that, it's kind of one of those things where you look at them, you're just like, oh my god, why'd you do that? Why'd you kill this animal or that and this other? And FROSLASS is kind of like that. Plus, it's not a bad design for an ice ghost. Like, it has that chilly vibe to it, and I love it. To number 3, though, we're going to heat things up a little bit with Chandelure. Chandelure, I liked after kind of Pokken came out, to be honest. I haven't really played Pokken or anything, but after really looking at Chandelure in the game and everything, I decided to look into it more on, like, Pokemon X and Y, stuff like that. And it's really not a bad Pokemon. It can do some damage. It's not exactly the weakest link. It can take a hit every now and again, and it really has some nice moves. If you get something like Will-O-Wisp, Hex, and some other things, you can really put in some work, and I love it. The luring Pokemon, the spirits burned up in its ominous flame lose their way and wander this world forever. Now that's kind of something scary about Chandelure. It's not that it burns you, it burns your soul specifically. It doesn't worry about the actual outer shell. It's just like, you know what? I'll burn this part of you and then walk away or float away. Down to number 2, which is probably kind of expected when it comes to ghosts, Gengar. Gengar has been loved ever since Gen 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter what generation you find it in. Gengar is probably going to be loved because it's just an overall amazing competitive Pokemon. It's amazing as a Pokemon in general. It's all a little, well, I don't want to call it chubby or anything. It's just adorable in its own little way and mischievous as well. The Shadow Pokemon Gengar. Should you feel yourself attacked by a sudden chill, it is evidence that of a Gengar approaching. There is no escaping it, just give up. Basically it's saying, if Gengar is anywhere near you and it wants to attack, don't bother fighting. Just go on and lay on the ground and be like, take me now. Don't even try. And that's another thing I love about Gengar. It's fierce. It's not meant to be messed around with. It's not meant to be like challenged. That thing is going to take you down without a problem. And that's another thing I love about Gengar. That smile is not always supposed to be happy. And down to the last one, which is my all-time favorite ghost, Misdreavus. I've loved Misdreavus since I saw it in Gen 2 and everything. It is by far just, it's adorable in its own little way, and its evolution is amazing as well. But Misdreavus is really one of those things where I couldn't help but choose it as a Pokemon to always be near me. Like, from Gen 2 all the way to Gen 6, I think? Something like that. If I saw a Misdreavus anytime early, and if I didn't already have a team or something, I more than likely had a Misdreavus on my team. If I remember correctly, I think in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, I actually had a Misdreavus, and only a Misdreavus. I didn't bother evolving it. And I had that Misdreavus all the way to the Elite 4 until I did it a second time, I think. Something like that. Misdreavus is really kind of powerful. Of course, Miss Magius is even better because it's the evolution and everything. But I don't know. I just like Misdreavus and how it looks. The Screech Pokemon Misdreavus. If you hear a sobbing sound can't talk. If you hear a sobbing sound emanating from a vacant room, it's undoubtedly a bit of mischief from Misdreavus. Think about that. If you know anything about the game Left 4 Dead 2 or anything like that, Misdreavus is basically the witch of Pokemon. Because if it wants to mess around, it can really lure you in with these sobs. And then it's a Screech Pokemon, so it kind of wants to scare you. So it's going to lure you in. You don't know where the sound is coming from. And it can just come up behind you and just screech in your ear and then go away. That's kind of Misdreavus' job when it comes to being a ghost, I guess. I like that about him. Or her, if you want to say. I know they kind of get female Misdreavus because it just fits better. But who knows. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what's your favorite ghost type Pokemon, because my god, there's a lot of them. And there's a lot of them that's not exactly always thought of. So rather than saying, oh, you should have put this in the top 10, just give me your top 10 of ghosts and let me know what the next typing should be, because I'm actually not even sure what I should choose. So let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you guys in the next one.